The hell did I just watch? How am I supposed to? I have to do a review of this. Okay. Phantasm 3. Phantasm? See the ball? 3. 1, 2, 3. Phantasm 3, also known as Phantasm Lord of the Dead, coming out in 1994, written directed by Don Coscarelli. And boy, this was a movie. This was definitely a movie. Okay, so I'm a firm believer that there are no such thing as bad movies. There's movies that people don't tend to like. This really pushed my belief to its fullest. This was quite a movie. Just like Phantasm 2, it takes place right at the end. And slyly replacing James LaGrosse. Michael Baldwin comes back to play Michael again. And they redid the final scene. All right. The first Phantasm. It ends with Michael and Reggie getting ready to leave because Jody had died and they were going on a trip anywhere and to get away from everything. And then the tall man comes and grabs Jody. Not Jody. I always say that. Who grabs Michael. Jody's dead. And Michael threw him through a mirror and ended the movie. The second movie ended with Kimmy, or Alchemy, becoming a bad person, a villainous character, and seemingly kills Reggie. And Michael says it's a dream, and the tall man comes out of the partition and says,
"No, it's not."
Something comes out of the window and pulls Michael out of the window. Phantasm 3 starts with that scene, redone with Michael Baldwin instead of James LaGrosse.
James LaGrosse.
I don't care. And Reggie did not die. He just kind of like rolled over. He got scratched a few times and just rolled out of the car before it flipped and all hell broke loose. And luckily, Michael got thrown free with barely any injuries. Liz is dead. The actor who played her didn't want to come back, so they had to kill her and make her face so indistinguishable from her that they didn't have to pay a likeness rights or anything, so they just bashed her face in. And you kind of find out a little bit more about the tall man's plans, because the tall man starts coming back for Michael as Reggie's trying to save him, and Reggie pulls out a grenade, and the tall man stops because he's like, I need him in, what did he say?
I don't want him in pieces. It's the only way you're gonna get him. Then I'll wait. Take good care of him.
And well, that's kind of how the movie starts. Phantasm 3. And that is about as Phantasm as the movie gets in accordance to the other two movies. So let's talk about Phantasm 3. First, Michael has to heal. He was blown up it wasn't blown up. He was blown free of a car crash. So he's in the hospital. And while he's in the hospital, he's already being attacked by the tall man and his minions, mainly the nurse, who tries to kill him while he's having I guess you call it an episode. He's having a seizure on the thing, but he's having this dream. And he dreams about Jody in the afterlife, and Jody's like, don't go to the light. You still have plans for you. As Jody's the main guy, or the real Jody too. They didn't replace anybody. This is the first time they've all been together again in like 15 years. the actors. It was kind of cool. But Jody's telling him, don't go, you're needed here, blah, blah, blah. And he wakes up to the nurse trying to inject him with yellow goo. Like they do. Like the tall man do. And luckily at the right time, Reggie comes in as he's struggling with the nurse. And, well, Michael takes out his IV and stabs the nurse right in the neck. And his IV is like 8 inches long. This is not 8 inches. This is like a foot. It's like 8 inches long. And he stabs it right into the nurse, and this bubble of yellow skin blood just starts gushing. It gets into Reggie's mouth, and it's always Reggie that always gets the bad end of anything, even when his best friend is lying there in a, well, not in a coma anymore, but he's lying there restrained in a bed. And as soon as the nurse hits the ground, a little compartment in her head pops off and a sphere escapes. Needless to say, this movie had a very limited budget, a very small budget, and that's kind of strange. Usually, as franchises go on, the budgets get bigger and bigger and bigger. This one didn't. This one, they had very small amount of time, money, and crew to make this movie. So it's kind of impressive for what they did. All right, at this point, Michael and Reggie go back home. There's a home now. And it's Reggie's home, new home, good old home. This was after the sphere just left the hospital. When they're home, Jody appears to Michael and warns him that the tall man is coming, just in time for the hallway behind them to shine bright white like it do in Phantasm movies. And through the tuning fork gate thing, the tall man arrives and snatches Michael. At this point, Jody has morphed into a sphere. It's just one of the spheres, and tries to go after the tall man. I can't think of his name. I was gonna say the big man. He goes after the tall man and he catches him, and he basically just burns the ball into like just a charred ball. It doesn't look like this anymore. It looks like my microphone without the cord. And it just falls to the ground, like my special effects. And then that ends the first part. And then the next is another road movie. Yay! Reggie and the Jody ball, because Jody can sometimes communicate through this ball, mainly by like going like this. Go this way. And you're like, okay. They go on the road, and the Jody ball tells him of this town, Holtzville. They can't be normal sounding towns in the Phantasm movies. No, Holtzville. So he okay. So Reggie stops and gets the car repaired, because it's the same Hemi that he's had since the very first movie, since Michael was working on it. He gets it repaired at this old this old garage, with its own stereotyped horror movie old crazy guy. And he asks where Holtzville is. He's like, is it down that road? And the old guy is like, you don't want to go down that road. And if you know anything about horror movies, if some old crazy guy at a gas station tells you not to go someplace, you don't go there. But if you're in a horror movie, you have to go there. So he gets in the car and goes on off. He doesn't even think about it. The guy's like, don't go there. I wouldn't if I were you. And Reggie's like, all right, see you later. I'm going there. So he goes to this town. It's absolutely deserted. He finds this semi-attractive woman, scantily clad, breaking into a car. Not even breaking into a car. It kind of looks like she's just having car trouble. And he's like, hey, what are you doing? And she pulls a gun on him. And he's like, I'm a friend. I can, let me have the gun. She appeases him, hands the gun over, and as soon as she does, two other guys are behind him, and they beat him down and put him in the trunk, and they take him on the road. So now Reggie is in the trunk of his own car, being hijacked by this punker dude, his girlfriend, and some older guy. He's not old; he's just older. He's actually a really good actor. He's from a lot of Peck and Paw movies. Anyway, so far it sounds like just a normal next movie. So they find a house. They go off. The young dude and the girl go to the front door, and the older dude comes around the back. They look through the window. They see two old people rocking, and they break in, and the old people in the rocking chair were dummies. When they find out that they're dummies, the door closes, and all these traps start undoing. And then there's this weird kid. You don't know yet because he's wearing this baby doll mask. It's very Tourist Trap. If you've seen the movie Tourist Trap, the mask is kind of like that, mixed with like the Happy Death Day mask. Yeah, it's pretty creepy. The older dude is right behind the kid and grabs him, pulls his mask off. He pulls out a tomahawk and just tomahawks the girlfriend right in the face, and that's it for her. The two dudes follow him, and he pulls the kid pulls out a pink frisbee that is lined with razor blades, and he throws it at them. Now, if I just saw this kid tomahawk my girlfriend in the face and have a whole bunch of traps that are either death or you get out of the way, I wouldn't just stand there and go, "Hey, look, a pink frisbee. That's not going to hurt anyone." No, this pink frisbee has freaking laser beams. No, it has razor blades. This has laser braids. A pink frisbee that has razor blades is coming right at you, and it just slices her in the neck, and this little neck appliance, shoots out blood, and it's cheap, but it's effective. And then the kid just shoots the older dude, and all three of them are dead. And then you start hearing Reggie pounding on the roof of the trunk, and the kid lets him out hesitantly and lets him know that there's nobody left in the town. He's the only survivor. He's learned how to survive. They look in his yard, and there's graves dug. And Reggie's like, "Is that your family?" He's like, "Nah, my family were gone long ago. These are just people who tried to break in." And they start digging graves for the three fresh new dead bodies that they put there. He stays there the next night or the next day. Reggie wants to go to the mortuary in this town, and the kid wants to go with him, and Reggie's like, "No, this is not a good place for a kid, blah blah blah." Not that there's a yard full of dead people that the kid has single-handedly taken care of, and these three dead people that are fresh. He also shows that he can shoot better than pretty much any marksman with a revolver. So Reggie decides to take the kid with him. And on the way, Reggie sees a daycare center. Well, it's not really a daycare center. It's this woman who's just taking care of like kids that have their parents were taken away by the doll man. And he pays the woman to take care of the kid, and the kid sees this and hops in the trunk. And Reggie doesn't know it, and they make their way to the mortuary. Not knowing the kid is there, Reggie gets out and goes into the main mausoleum. And there's a sphere there waiting for him. Not waiting for him, but there's a sphere there ready to kill him. As he's trying to escape, he also runs into these two women who are trying to, I guess, figure things out or loot the place or something. This is apparently the first time they've seen one of the spheres, and they try to fight it off, and one of them gets a sphere to the face, because we can't have a Phantasm movie without a sphere to the face with the blood. You find out that the other woman, played by Gloria Lynn Henry, who goes by Rocky in the movie, or I like to call the knockoff Grace Jones, because she's got the Grace Jones hair and she knows karate. You find out that she knows karate and she's good with a nunchaku. I don't know. But they fight off the ball, but it keeps persisting, and right when you think it's going to hit someone, it gets shot out of midair by the kid, because he can shoot. He can shoot like the Dickens, and they just hightail it out of there. So now Rocky, the Grace Jones character, she tells them about this town called Bolton, where a giant mausoleum is at, and that's basically where the tall man is going, or is where he's at. That's where they're going. On the way, they get attacked Mad Max style by a hearse with a couple gravers, and the pink hearse that now has the zombie 3 people that Tim killed: the zombie punker, his girlfriend, and the older guy. This is where things start to. This movie is wacky. Okay, so it's like Don Coscarelli was making this magnum opus of a horror story, and he gets to the third one and he's like, I don't know what to do with the third one. And while he's trying to think of ways to write the third one, he has Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 in the background, Tobe Hooper's satirical take on his own first movie. And that's kind of what it is. It's kind of like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 of Phantasm. The zombie characters are in full goofy mode. They're woohoo and all that stuff. Even the girl jumps from one hearse to their car, and she gets blown off, and the zombies run her over, and then they look at each other, and then they start laughing like crazy, and it's strange. So they reach the Bolton mortuary, and everybody gets separated. This is where a lot of the exposition comes in. Jody Ball shows Mike what the tall man's actually doing. He shows him his lab, where he makes these creatures in his dimension, brings them over, takes their brains, puts them in the balls, and that's how he makes the balls. And the husk of the creature, he just then reanimates, and they just do his bidding. And that's where the evil Jawas come from. Yay. His idea is to take every dead sentient being that he can find and turn them into his minions and balls. Minions and balls. It's like a song. And he wants to take over all of the dimensions. They're discovered. Mike gets captured, gets strapped to a table. At the same time, the zombie guys bring the kid in. The kid's name is Tim. I don't know why I just keep calling him the kid, but it makes him sound tough. He's the kid. No, they bring in Tim. Before anything happens, Mike tries to tell the kid there are thousands of them. But then he's paralyzed, where he can't even speak. So it's kind of garbled and messed up, and Tim's not supposed to know or recognize readily what he said. So trying to save Mike, they get to the embalming lab, where they find this giant vat of liquid nitrogen. So of course, what do? They put a big spear into the liquid nitrogen. They open up the door. They spear the tall man with it. He tries to grab it, and the liquid nitrogen's too much for him, and his hands start melting. Not as cool as the cool melting effect they did in the last movie. And they push him all the way into the freezer and stick him into the wall and close the freezer. And that is the end of the tall man's body. Because once he freezes, his face breaks apart, and a bigger golden ball comes out of his face. And this ball tries to attack everybody. They get Michael out. He's bleeding. He's noticing that his blood is yellow, like the tall man's blood. And then he goes over to a mirror and he starts examining his head, and he kind of pulls out where he was injured, and he sees this chrome circle in his thing, and he's putting it back, like, I don't believe it. And at the same time, this golden ball is going after the kid, Rocky, and Reggie. Tim, I'm just gonna call him Tim. The movie's almost over, so the kid, Rocky, and Reggie. And Reggie, in full Reggie fashion, fights off the ball with a plunger, because ball can fit inside of a plunger. But he doesn't know what he's grabbing. He just sees this handle, so he's pulling on it, and it's like this real dramatic, like, aha, and he looks at it, and it's a plunger, and he looks at it like, wah, wah. But they catch it in the plunger, and then like two blades come out of the side trying to attack him, and he's pulling it off. He's holding it off, and they're doing this thing with the ball, and they manage to walk it over to the vat of liquid nitrogen, and they throw it in that vat. And then Michael leaves the mortuary. He just walks, starts leaving. And when he gets outside, you see his face. He has chrome eyes, and he talks about how cold it is. And they both the rest of them follow him out, and Reggie tries to stop Mike, and he's like,
"Stay away from me."
And he walks away, and Jody appears from behind Reggie, and he walks by, and he tells him,
"Be patient, Reg. We'll be in touch."
So we get to the end of the movie. Reggie wants to form this new team. He wants Rocky and Tim all together for something. I don't know. I guess because he knows it's not the end. Michael is silver. That means it's not over. Reggie wants to go back in, look at the lab, see if there's any clues to what the next step is going to be, knowing that it's not over. But Rocky's done. She's just like, this is not what I signed up for. So she gets into the car. She gets ready to leave. You think there's going to be this, this romantic thing, because the whole time Reggie's been just trying to get with her. And she ends up giving him a hug and a little peck on the cheek. And she drives off. And then they go back in and they start looking for clues. So they go from the hallway, and Tim goes inside the actual lab. And then he finds one of the tuning fork rooms. And he goes back and tries to find Reggie, and he can't find him. And he closes the door, and Reggie is pinned down by a whole mess of these things. These little buggers are all over him. And one's even got his hand out on the thing. Tim finally realizes when Mike says there's thousands of them, what he's talking about. And in Phantasm trademark fashion, Tim's standing by a window and gets pulled out through it, and then the credits roll. So that's Phantasm 3. One of the wackiest movies I've seen in a franchise that probably wasn't supposed to be so wacky. But they didn't have much of a budget. They didn't have much time. The studio just decided that they wanted a 3. In fact, Don Coscarelli had said during filming that he had run out of ideas after finishing the script for Phantasm 2, in which direction they were going to take. And he had no idea what he would do if he had to make a 4th Phantasm movie. And he jokingly added that if Phantasm 4 were ever to be filmed, it would actually be just to make money out of it. And maybe that's true, maybe that's not. We'll find out next time. Thanks for joining me for this actual fun viewing of a movie that could be seen as terrible, but it's a fun, good time. Like I said, it's the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 of Phantasm. You've got 2 movies that were serious, that had this serious thing going for it. Then you have a fun one. and let's see where the next one takes us. I'll see you next time.